Choose your words wisely, especially when speaking about yourself, even if it's making jokes or lighthearted kind of fun about yourself. Here's why. Because the words that you choose to speak about yourself make up your identity and who you are. Hey folks, how's it going? Coach Junior here from the CFS recovery team. And in today's video, we're going to be talking about the subject of watching your language and choosing your words wisely throughout your recovery journey, because your words make an impact and absolutely do matter. Now, before we move forward with this topic, I just want to preface very quickly, I am not a doctor, I am not a medical professional, and I am not a mental health professional in any sense of the word. I'm just someone who happened to fully recover from chronic fatigue syndrome and now have had the privilege to speak to literally thousands of people, and I'm taking everything that I have learned and giving it back to you in the form of a YouTube video, so hopefully you can apply these teachings to you in your recovery to hopefully get you in a little bit of a better direction. So let's talk about words. Let's talk about language. And I think the important place to start in this video is starting with how you speak to yourself. Choosing how you speak to yourself first and foremost is really important, because sometimes we tend to joke, make fun of, or even in a lighthearted way kind of pick at ourselves a little bit when we're talking about other people. Here's the thing though, and some advice from me to you. Choose your words wisely, especially when speaking about yourself, even if it's making jokes or lighthearted kind of fun about yourself. Here's why. Because the words that you choose to speak about yourself make up your identity and who you are. And your identity and who you are directly as a byproduct of that kind of shapes how your future looks like, okay? Because here's the thing, whether you are joking and being lighthearted and playful when you pick kind of fun at yourself and your shortcomings and your situation, your brain can't tell if you're being serious or if you're joking. So even for me, I have to sometimes watch myself when I'm joking around with my friends. I used to have this habit of sometimes putting myself down as a little bit of a form of comedic relief, because that was, for whatever reason, something that I would use to kind of break the silence in a conversation or to make the conversation a little bit more interesting. There's other ways to find comedic relief or break silence in a conversation than putting yourself down, even in a joking way, or making light of your own recovery in a little bit of a negative way. So for example, I'll give you a direct example of something that I used to do. I used to joke about my recovery, and I would tell people, yeah, I was able to recover. It only took me about 3 million years, but I would say things like that, not realizing the impact that it had on my brain and that my brain was listening. Right? Or sometimes I would even joke and say, yes, I'm in an adjustment period. It's not the worst adjustment period in the world. It's only probably the worst adjustment period I've had in all time of human existence, or something like that. And I would say that sarcastically. Even that, you guys got to understand, your brain is listening. It's really, really, really important, your word choice and your language that you're using. So for me, I actually had to switch that up. I stopped talking about my recovery in a negative light. I actually stopped talking about myself in a negative way, even if I was joking with myself. Because like I said, the brain can't tell the difference whether you're joking or whether you're actually being genuine and honest with it, okay, in a serious situation. Let's transition a little bit into the word choice that we choose. Now, you might have thought that I'm talking about profanities or something like, like that. When the title says watch your language, right? Especially in the beginning of the video, I said watch your language. You're probably saying don't curse, don't use profanities. Actually, no, that's not the point that I'm trying to make here. In this video, it's actually more important to look at the adjectives. The way you are explaining things are really, really important. So if you find yourself using really extreme terms, really black and white phrasing, I'll give you some examples. So let's say we're using words like terrible, words like awful, words like debilitating, words like life-altering, words like this is the worst thing ever. When we use phrases like that, when we use words like that, you got to understand your brain is listening to those words as well. So you have to ask yourself, how can I take these words that I'm so used to saying, that I was brought up around hearing people around me say and explain and describe things in these ways, and switch it into something that's framed a little bit more healthy for me? Notice how I didn't say positive, because I don't need you to change your words from a negative to a positive, but I just need you to swing it in a way where it sounds a bit more healthy. So let me give you some direct examples so you can take these things and apply them to you in your life and your recovery, okay? So instead of saying things like, I'm having a terrible day, say things like, I'm having a really challenging day today. Instead of saying things like, I had a huge setback or I made a huge mistake in my recovery, I shouldn't have done that, right? Instead, tell yourself, this was a necessary opportunity for growth, or this was a great learning experience for me. Okay. Instead of saying things like, I am terrified of this experience, say things like, this experience right now is really outside of my comfort zone at the moment. Okay. Instead of saying things like, I feel extremely debilitated with my condition right now, try saying other things that are a little bit more healthy, like, I feel very much limited in this moment. Okay. Instead of saying phrases like, I feel like this is going to go on forever, say things like, this is lasting a little bit longer than I expected. When you say things like, the symptoms are really, really bad, the symptoms are really, really hard, Miguel would use colors, believe it or not, to explain the situation and say, this adjustment period and these symptoms are very colorful this go around, very interesting this go around, okay? I like to use food just because I'm a foodie, so I like to explain it in the form of food. So I would say, my symptoms today are very flavorful, very delicious this go around, right? Anything to get away from those really, really black and white, really extreme words, things like terrible, awful, debilitating, terrified, right? Things like that. Your brain is listening to your word choice, you guys, okay? Reframe it in a way that's growth-oriented. Reframe it in a way that's solution-focused. Your brain really picks up on these things, and this way you can take a negative and turn it into something that's framed a little bit more leaning towards forward motion. Okay, so that's what I mean. So to recap, the two things that we talked about in this video, because I don't want to take too long for my folks who have brain fog here. Number one, be careful what you say about yourself, even in a joking way, because the things that you say, even in a joking way, define your identity, and your identity defines, as a byproduct of that, how your life eventually does play out. There's power in your words. Your brain doesn't know whether you are joking or whether you are telling the truth. So just be careful about the things that you say sarcastically or the things that you joke about, right? Even to and about yourself. The second thing that I want to talk about is your word choice specifically. I'm not talking about profanity, really, but I'm mainly talking about how you describe your condition, your experience, your symptoms. Terrible, awful, debilitating, terrifying, worst thing ever. I made a mistake. I went backwards. This is a setback. Watch the word choice a little bit and try reframing it into something a bit healthier. Okay, excellent. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope this video helped you in some way, shape, or form in your recovery, and I will see you again next time.
Let's say that CFS recovery is absolutely the real deal.
I actually felt like somebody had an answer, like somebody explained what was going on, and it all clicked.